Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Summer of STEM virtual workshops with Thales. We're delighted to have you joining us today. My name is Maria and I'm your host today, and I'll be helping to guide you through this exciting session. Before we get started, there's just a few housekeeping points. Please note that this session is being recorded, so the content will be reviewed and shared where appropriate. If you have any questions, please use the chat facility within Teams, and we'll do our best to answer them throughout the call or maybe at a designated Q&A point towards the end. Today's workshop is the first in a series of 4 STEM challenges designed to help you explore real-world challenges, understand more career pathways, and how to apply science, technology, engineering, and maths to your future. We're excited to kick off this journey with you, and we'd love to see creativity and innovation brought to our challenges. Please use the emojis to show your appreciation to our guest speakers, and I'd love to hand over to the guys at Thales. Thank you so much.
Good morning. My name is James Mackay and I am the head of STEM here at Thales UK. It's a real privilege to bring you the first of our series of webinars today, and we are really lucky to be joined by a selection of different colleagues from across the company across the summer. Hopefully you'll have some key takeaways and learning a little bit about what Thales does, a little bit about what it means to work in a technology company, and some insight into the day-to-day life of our colleagues. Lots of you will have seen the video as you entered. So Thales is probably the biggest technology company that you've never ever heard of, but will have come into contact with your day-to-day life in multiple ways. We work on all different types of technology, anything from submarines beneath the sea to satellites orbiting Earth. If you have a mobile phone, a SIM card, if you have a bank card, the chances are that we produce some of that technology. And if you are lucky enough to have ever been on a plane, 2 out of 3 planes will take off and land using Thales equipment across the world. We are really privileged to have been nominated as one of Glassdoor's best places to work and to have recently received the accolade of being in the top 100 apprenticeship employers in 2026. Now, before I hand over, we're going to pass over to Sam Hassan, who is joining us today, and he is an assistant project manager. He's going to give you some insight into what day-to-day life looks like in his role. And if you do have any questions, please do feel free to pop them into the Q&A section, and we will pick those up at the end. So Sam, over to you.
Thank you very much, James. Morning, everyone. So a little bit about me. I'm an Arsenal fan. I've been watching them for quite some time. I won't tell you how long, but yeah, I was quite happy this summer actually, celebrating their win. Went to their parade, so there's quite a few photos of me enjoying the parade. I'm also an American football fan. Philadelphia Eagles is my team. Started playing at university. So yeah, that's a little bit of what I do outside of work. In terms of what I've sort of recently done as well, been traveling recently. Went to Canada. I did a little bit of a road trip to meet some friends. We went to Calgary, then drove up to Edmonton, then drove to Banff. Apparently it's one of the most beautiful places on earth.
Lovely.
So yeah, it was a really good time. It was a 10-day road trip, and then we capped it off with finishing back at Calgary, going to a cowboy music festival called Calgary Stampede. So yeah, that's a little bit about me, a little bit of what I do outside of work, and yeah, it was a really good summer on my end at least. But yeah, anyway, next slide. So a little bit about my background and motivation. I went to the University of Portsmouth. I studied there for 3 years, or 4 years actually. For 3 of those years, I studied history. I did a Bachelor Honours degree in that, and then it was COVID. So unfortunately, I thought, what better time to do a master's? And I thought, let's go and do it in business management. So that's what I did for my master's. Really enjoyed it. However, during my master's, I was sort of thinking ahead and thinking, what can I do ahead of time, or where can I work ahead? And I sort of stumbled across a placement called at Subseacraft, and this was a sort of startup defense company back down in Portsmouth as well. And it turned from a 1-month placement into sort of a summer job after that. So I really enjoyed it, and it was a mixture of sort of like business development, so sales, and also project management. So I did a hybrid of that when I was working there, and it sort of I guess generated an interest in working in the defense industry, or working in sales in particular. And yeah, so that came to an end in September of that year. So that would have been 2021, and I sort of moved back to home. London. My mum didn't want me in the house as much, obviously, so I was trying to look for a new job, and I came across Jägermeister. So I started working on that for just under a year. And I was a sales rep for Central and East London. It was a good, transitional job you can call it. Outside of uni, I worked in sales, and I worked on the on-trade sector, and that meant everything to do with pubs, bars, and clubs. And yeah, it was all about boosting Jägermeister sales and visibility. So yeah, that's a little bit about me before joining Thales. But now currently I'm a project manager, and it's a little bit different to what I was doing beforehand. But a typical project manager's day to day, or assistant project manager at least, is to juggle this PM triangle. You can see on the right hand side, we have to juggle between budget, cost, time and schedule, and scope. In order to deliver a quality product. In terms of, I guess, to go through the definitions, budget and cost is how much the product will cost. Time and schedule is how much time we're given to deliver the product, and scope is another word for requirements. What is the customer asking for the product? So, for example, let's pick radios. Do they want it to at 50 feet, 100 meters, etc., etc., or does it want it to be gold plated? All these different sort of stipulations of how they want it to be delivered to them. But yeah, that's the sort of what I guess a core tenet of what a project manager needs to work on. In terms of what we sort of work on, or my typical day to day, so I'll just, no day is the same, but I'll pick like today, for example, have to schedule for plan of the week. So it's basically a quick meeting where all these sort of different functions, so quality, engineering, project management, get together and have a little meeting to discuss what they're doing for the rest of the week and how we can all work together to deliver our final product. Also, I spend quite a bit of time in PowerPoint, and that is really usually to present information in various different forms to either a customer or stakeholder, which is another word for a customer. But stakeholders can also include my boss or my boss's boss. And that's basically just to make sure that the information we're working on is flowed through the company and everyone gets an understanding of what we're working on, any challenges we're coming across, and any solutions we have both within the team or outside the team, and how we can all work together really to deliver a good product at the end. Also, we run work package meetings. So typically there would be sort of, we work on a monthly cycle where we look to sort of detail what we've worked on over the last month. And again, it all focuses on those budget, cost, time and schedule and scope of what we've done over the past month and what we're going to do in the next month. And these meetings are just to make sure that we're on track of our tasking, on track of our work, and it's basically a good way to monitor what we're working on consistently throughout. Additionally, one of the most important hours of the day is lunch. So it's always good to get lunch in. And yeah, it's a good time to sort of network or talk to our friends, catch up with people. But yeah, usually lasts an hour. Post lunch, sort of I usually like to answer emails, even though I'm sort of mainly doing it throughout the day. It's probably a good time to knuckle down and catch up on anything that I may have missed over the morning. And yeah, and then I guess maybe I would say highlights. Maybe some people might disagree. A workshop usually is quite interesting, I find, and they can range from like getting people to talk about risk, or it's basically just a big meeting, get together, and sort of planning on what to do, trying to troubleshoot any problems we have, or provide a solution looking forward, looking into the future of our project. Additionally, I like reports, call people, customers potentially, or other colleagues about stuff we need to get sorted. But yeah, the sort of overall work of the project is to sort of overall work of a project manager is to sort of problem solve, provide long-term planning, and effectively support customers. In terms of the key learning, so I joined Thales as a graduate, being a project management graduate, spent 2 years on the program, and I learned quite a bit during my time there. So we did the group project, and that was sort of getting together with other graduates and delivering some volunteering hours within the company and trying to boost volunteering hours across the whole company as well. This sort of culminated in quite a few things, sort of a rowing event, Christmas present drive, and sort of finally was capped off in a rugby tournament, which was quite good, on the Crawley site at least. And yeah, it was quite enjoyable, and you learn quite a bit from that time. And again, learn all this sort of different ways to deal with customers, for example, work with others, work within the company. Sort of each organization is slightly different from each other. So being able to work in sort of being able to understand how to work within a professional environment was quite useful. And that sort of grace period we were given of this sort of mini group project definitely helped with that transition phase from working at uni or working in sort of different jobs to working within Thales, I'd say. Leader Thales. So Thales has these sort of three pillars which they pride themselves on and try and drive all, I would say, all colleagues to work towards. And they're called Think Big, Make It Happen, and Together. Think Big is more like about, how do you say, sort of, I don't want to say big ideas, but sort of thinking ahead and thinking into the future and thinking how best to assist yourself or assist other colleagues on your overall, I don't know, delivery or overall growth as a person. Not sure if that's the best way to describe it, but yeah. And that could include like shadowing other people's, building schedules, making presentations again, as I mentioned, or improving data quality. I like ran a little mini project about data quality in my sort of work area at the time, and sort of discussing about how important it is to focus on data quality, which seems to be quite a big focus now, as we can see currently within our company, as we move towards AI and moving towards digital dashboards, etc. Making it happen is being about being as proactive as possible. I would describe it as that, and having to catch in, being as proactive as possible and thinking ahead as far ahead as possible. Or being, if you're given a task, what can you do with it and how you can take it that much further. So that includes like budgeting. Talked about there's primary engineer. I'll sort of talk about that a little bit later, and then also travel opportunities. There's a bunch of ways to sort of engage with the customer, both within the UK and outside of the UK, and in terms of linking that to make it happen, it works quite well to be face to face with the customer, conveying ideas, helping sort out any issues they would have. Together, so I did a bit of coaching as well outside of this, with a coach to a local uni team, and yeah, so I'd like to do some of that as well. I'd like to do a bit of volunteering, and in terms of sort of together, seeking feedback is always trying to sort of improve yourself and sort of how can I do better? How can I be a better colleague or a better person? Or work in the environment I'm working in. And then Yes UK, I'll get back to that. Or I'll get back to that later on. So yeah, like I said, Yes UK. So I chair this employee network called Your Employee Society, and I look after the whole of the UK. We have around 4 to 5 people, sort of like, I don't want to say board members, but like volunteers or people who help out continuously. So they're quite valuable. I really enjoy that support. Really enjoy their help. But yeah, we deliver a variety of charity events. We do an annual ski trip. We had, I want to say 30 last year, 45 this year, so it's quite a big scale up, and we're going to go for another trip in 2027 as well. We also host talks and career stories. So sort of similar to this, we get people to talk about their journey before Thales, what they're doing in Thales, and just to sort of give a bit more color to people outside of their sort of typical work day-to-day working life, and just hopefully bring people together. Really, that's the aim of it. We also get rugby. We also arranged a rugby tournament with BAE, and that was a sort of good charity event. We raised it for Helpful Heroes and SAFA, and I can't remember the last one. But yeah, it was a charity event which we got together with BAE, and it was a good way to network, also give back to the community as well, especially as we support the armed forces quite a bit within our company. We also held some international site visits, so we got to take a few people to Paris recently, and a few people from Paris also visited us. So there's always that sort of fun sort of networking, both internally within the UK, but also externally in sort of different Thales sites across the group. And yeah, like I mentioned, we have around 426 members across the site, so it's an ever-growing network, I'll say. Primary engineer. So as part of some of my volunteering last year, I got involved with this, I want to say, initiative called in the UK called Primary Engineer, where they go to local schools and they ask kids from the ages of, I want to say, year 3 and up, to just submit ideas of what they want to see engineers build, and they range from anything from like a Simpsons portal gun to what you see on the screen, sort of reading glasses for people with dyslexia. So that was a project I was tasked with a few other colleagues in Manchester, and we took, I want to say, 6 months to develop the product. Work with Millie, who's the sort of young engineer who came up with the idea, and yeah, develop the product, come up with a prototype, and then present it back to her, and also at a, I don't, what do you call it, end of year type of end of scheme presentation. And yeah, we did that, and that was quite successful. We won a gold award. And it was also picked up by Sir Richard Branson, and it also ended up on ITV News Granada. So yeah, we got some quite good bit of traction with that, and we're quite pleased with the overall and final product. And me and the 5 other engineers were quite pleased with the overall delivery in the end. Future goals. So if I look to the future, what I sort of want to achieve is in terms of leading my own team. I want to sort of be able to say, put my hat on something and say that, yeah, I actually delivered something quite significant, whether it's internally or externally, or an external project for the company. Yeah, that's something which I think I'd be quite pleased and quite proud to say I've achieved. Challenge myself. I like to think like I continuously challenge myself, and that is sort of something that sort of keeps me mentally stimulated in the job. So constantly pushing myself to be better each day on day is sort of how I think is sort of getting a little bit better. Every time sort of coming to the office, or if I do sports or something like that. So yeah, exploring different areas. For example, would love to work abroad. My mum left her home country when she was 19 and has worked abroad or has lived abroad ever since. So that's something I'd like to do, at least whether it's for a year or for a particular project at the time. I don't know what it looks like, but that's definitely a motivation of mine to achieve. And then sort of continuous development is a sort of last pillar. I sort of try and keep sort of looking forward in terms of like setting myself a 5-year goal, 10-year goal, as sort of monthly goals as well, like what I want to achieve. I want to get out of the project, or what I want to get out of my job, what I want to get out of life as well. And these are sort of different things that keep me sort of going and keep these sort of, sometimes you can get lost with a long-term goal or be a bit lost of what you want to really achieve. But I think keeping sort of mini goals sort of keeps you motivated to say, oh, I've achieved that, or I've achieved that, or I've achieved that. And there's sort of mini goals that stack up to a greater overall body of work, which you can say, yeah, I'm happy with that, or yeah, I've achieved this at the end of the year. So that's sort of how I sort of break down my sort of, I guess, motivational future aspirations. And yeah, that's it a little bit about myself.
Brilliant. Thank you for that, Sam. So just before we move on to the question and answers, and again, if you have any Q&As, please do pop them in the section and I will read them aloud to Sam. I suppose for me, a key takeaway about project management, it sounds like your role can be quite flexible.
Yeah.
And what advice would you give to a young person looking to come into project management? If you could turn back the clock and speak to a younger Sam, what advice would you give to him?
Oof. Oh, I don't know. I would say, yeah, it can be quite flexible. So I wouldn't say like try and limit. I'd say this. It's probably quite difficult, especially with how the current education system is. I would try and say keep your options as broad as possible. I know you're sort of quite told to specialize as early as possible, but I would say keep your options open. Try and think of different ways to broaden your horizon, and whether that's doing like a side job outside of school, or doing sports, or doing a hobby, running a network, or joining a community project or something like that. These different experiences will help develop these sort of soft skills, which will help you in the future. You may not necessarily know why playing the guitar might help you, but it will help out somehow. Eventually, you may be able to speak to someone who's really into rock music, for example, or music in general, and you'll be able to bond over that, and that will help with a personal relationship down the line in terms of building rapport with a customer. Or it could be something that you enjoy working in the music industry, and that's something you end up falling in love with and wanting to do for the rest of your life. Yeah, I would say try and be as flexible as possible and have a wide range of like hobbies, or yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you. So we have a question from Evie. So Evie, thank you for your question. And it is, how much focus do you need to lead a team? It's a great question.
That's that's quite a good question. I think you need to be highly organized yourself, and in regards to that, also quite a good communicator. I think you need to be organized, a good communicator, and then have that sort of long-term vision and understanding of where you are from this sort of base foundation to where you need to go, where you need to take the team to. Other than that, I think then you need to be able to trust others, and trust others will do the work. So I think in terms of bringing it back to the focus, I think if you control your outcomes or your variables and let others do the work or help support you, you will eventually be able to lead that team to where you need to go. So it's a hybrid of to be highly focused on what you can control and try and bring others to help support you into where you need to go.
And I suppose that comes back to those values you were talking about earlier about doing things together and being able to influence and bring people on that journey. Thank you. So we've obviously got a rugby enthusiast in the chat because there is a question about rugby and if it's touch rugby.
Yes, it was touch rugby. We tried to be as inclusive as possible, and I don't think people would want to come into the following Monday with like a broken wrist or nose or something like that. So we had to fill out quite a few health and safety forms.
And then are there any specific GCSEs that you'd recommend someone to take?
Or project management, I guess. No, I just probably should say no. Economics, I would say, business management, but I don't know if they do that as a GCSE or if they do it as an I don't know what's the A level. Some schools I know probably do a GCSE in project management. It really depends on what school you're at and what is being provided. But I wouldn't say that has to be a specific one. I would say
your GCSEs, Sam?
My GCSEs, I did economics. I did German. So outside of the core, I did economics, German. I did design and technology, but because I also did history, and I had quite a few like heavy writing subjects, which were like the economics, German, and history. So I wanted to do something with my hands a little bit. So design and technology helped, and I didn't have to do as much writing as needed.
Well, that balance is important. What is project management like for you?
It's challenging. Yeah, it's difficult. There are good days and bad days. But like I said, no day is ever the same. And I think that is sort of part of the appeal to it. And also, you feel like you're contributing to sort of a greater goal or a greater aim. And I think that sort of drive to work and complete something is sort of, I think, what it sort of motivates you day to day.
Brilliant. And then thinking about your future. You've talked about leading a team. You've talked about exploring different locations. It's really exciting. If you could choose one place on Earth to work, where would it be and why?
What can I say? I'm not sure. I wouldn't pick just because of location. I think I'd pick somewhere where the opportunity sort of leads to sort of like a next step or for future career development. I think that's primarily would be my motivation. Location is always nice. And it definitely helps. We rotate on the grad scheme, and we were sort of we were sent all over the UK. Some people had very different experiences. Some people had very good experiences, but ultimately we all sort of were on the scheme for bettering our career. But I would say we pretty much all had a good time and pretty much enjoyed different locations we were within the UK. But abroad, I think, I don't know, Canada, America, there, I guess, or somewhere in Europe, at least France or Germany.
Is it that NFL pool drawing you towards
I think I don't know, I think it's just different. It's a different work approach to work, and I think experience different cultures or different professional environments is what would motivate you to go somewhere. So I think that's definitely something which would be interesting to explore.
Thank you. And we've had a question about what the quality of work is like at Thales. So I think I'm going to expand on that a little bit, and I hope that I get this right. So thank you for your question. But I suppose, what is it like working at Thales?
Yeah, it's good. I've only worked in Thales in a project management sense, but how do you say this? From what I've heard, in comparison to sort of companies, Thales is sort of quite good on sort of work-life balance. I definitely feel that as well. I think we get Fridays off, oh, not Fridays off, Friday, shouldn't say that. Half days on Friday. But yeah, I would say it's quite a good balance. I think, yeah, but some weeks generate more than sort of the allotted hours we have. So yeah, I would say it's a good balance. And I enjoy the people. I think everyone's quite welcoming, quite friendly. I've really enjoyed, yeah, working my time here. And in comparison to other jobs, for example, sales at Jägermeister, it'd be long days, and I'd be working into the nights as well, just purely because of the job itself. So it's a different job entirely, really, to compare.
Thank you. Well, great question. What are the benefit packages like here?
Half day Fridays, and I'll have to go into the benefits portal to double check, to be perfectly honest.
No, that's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
And we'll pick that up in a second in terms of the benefits package, because we can talk about that. But I suppose what the theme of these questions is a little bit around what drove you to pick Thales over other companies. Was there a specific reason or draw in terms of the offer?
In terms of why I picked Thales, I like the fact that there's a rotational aspect of the scheme, and being able to explore different parts of the company and different parts of the UK.
Can you just explain for the people out there what rotational aspect means?
Yes, so particularly for bid and project management, you do your first year at your home site, let's call it. We're at Crawley, for example. That's where I did my home site. Then we did and then you're sort of sent to different locations, and you sort of put forward, or you try and pick from the options put forward, and you get sent to another Thales site around the country, and that is sort of where the rotation aspect comes into play. On top of that, you work in a different business line and you work in a different role. So we were a project controller. Then you worked in bid management and then project management. And this is all the sort of different stages within the job family that helps contribute to project delivery.
Great, thank you. And then our final question is, how would you define the culture of Thales, and how does Thales empower employees?
I think it's quite welcoming. I think, yeah, it's quite welcoming. Everyone's quite open. It's quite, I'm willing to help each other. I'd say that. In terms of trying to push employees, I think they have all these various networks outside of the UK. They have the Reach, LGBTQIA, the WIV network. So there's a sort of a lot of external support outside of your typical day-to-day role. And then I know there's quite a few sort of people who do these sort of training qualifications. And I know the sort of company prides itself on being a learning company. And yeah, tries to push people forward to get these qualifications to help support not only themselves personally, professionally, but also the company ultimately, really, in the end.
Brilliant, thank you. Well, thank you, Sam. Really enjoyed that. If I haven't got around to your question, I will attempt to answer some of them in a moment, because I purposely delayed because I knew they were coming up and we've got some content. If not, we will try and get the answers to you in the follow-up. So that leads us on to the next section. So every week we are going to be launching a weekly challenge. And Sam, I tried to tie this in a little bit towards your role this week. What I will say is the weekly challenge will offer an opportunity for you to win some prizes. So always a pro. All you have to do is take the challenge and submit your work to the email address, which I will display on the screen in a moment. We will then select some of those submissions at random for people to receive some Amazon vouchers to recognize their hard work. So, Sam, I've used your role quite loosely to think about what project management might look like in the community. So we are looking for creative ideas that tackle a real world problem and make a positive difference, a bit like what we do here in the company. What I would like you to do, if you're interested in pursuing this challenge, is explain which problem you've selected. Think about it really, really clearly and explain that to someone who has no knowledge of your circumstance or the problem that you're suggesting that you tackle. Show how your idea works, who it would benefit, and why it matters. So pick an issue in your community, and that might be things like improving green spaces, reducing litter, supporting mental health well-being, or helping people feel more connected. Then pull together a simple project plan showing what you do, who it would help, what you'd need in terms of resources to make it happen, and how you would measure, how you'd know if it worked and that impact. And you can email your submission to tallis@school-outreach.com. It doesn't matter what format you want to submit that in. If it's a poster, if it's something you've written down on paper, take a photo of it. If you want to do a presentation, a video, we'll welcome all different types of submissions. But Sam, can I ask, if you were to create a really simple project plan, what would you recommend including on there?
Oh, put me on the spot now.
I have.
Sort of like so stating what your problem is.
Mhm.
So like I don't know how to explain it now. Not problem statement.
Yeah.
So problem statement, what you're trying to do, a brief like summary of how you're going to tackle it,
Mhm.
and then a diagram showing like what steps you're going to, or a diagram if it's like a, I don't know, like if it's a robot cleaning machine, like a diagram how it's going to be built, what features it's going to have in it,
Mhm.
or like a clear step-by-step plan of how you're going to achieve it with like a process map or a process like a with a process map of how you're going to get from point A to point B. And yeah, I think those are the sort of main ways to present information.
Brilliant. And there's lots of different formats that people choose to present
Yeah.
information and project plans in. So find something that really resonates with you, and we'd love to see those submissions. So do email those to tallis@schooloutreach.com. A couple of you questioned some information about careers at Thales and about work experience. So on your screen, what you should see is a QR code, and that QR code for both sections will take you to different places. The first will take you through to a platform where you can look at different job opportunities that we have at Thales alongside some supporting resources. What I will say is that often our recruitment campaign runs from October. So we're on the wind down because we're really privileged to have a couple hundred people starting with us in September. So we're very focused on making sure that they have the best start to their career here. So there will be some information on there, but there may not be active job listings at the moment. I'd seen a question about work experience, and the work experience is something that's really, really important to get that deep insight into what companies do and if you think that you'd be a really good fit for a particular company. What we offer at the moment is a virtual work experience, and that's through a platform called SpringPod. So if you are interested in what Thales does and the different types of roles here, then you can use that QR code to go through to the platform and find out a bit more information about Thales as a whole and the different types of tasks that you might complete. And as I said at the beginning of the call, this is the first of 4 different weekly sessions where we are going to showcase different colleagues from around the business. So I'm really excited that next week we're going to have one of our technical directors, Julian, joining us to share a little bit of insight into his work. And in the following 2 weeks, we have one of our colleagues from cybersecurity and from AI, which I know is absolutely a hot topic because Sam, you've already mentioned AI and its integration. So if you haven't already, please do register for those upcoming sessions. We'll be taking some of the examples from the people who have submitted their answers to our challenge, and we'll be showcasing and announcing the winners on next week's show. So thank you all for joining us, and I hope to see you next week. And if you do have any other questions or contacts, do feel free to reach out. You can use that tallis@school-outreach.com to get in contact with us. Sam, thanks again for joining us.